Welcome back, guys. So let's start modifying the anatomy for this to kind of match what we have in here for the reference. So now the idea in my mind when I'm trying to recreate something like this is just to try and simplify the general mass of the body or the shape into simplified objects. Like for now we have this particular base mesh actually work completely fine for this. Why? Because more or less what we need to do there is just to get some slimmer legs to this, especially on this region, and more or less in the entire region, all the way from this angle all the way. Let me use the max lasso to kind of isolate or max out those parts so you get a better idea. It doesn't seem to be working. Oh, this needs to be selected. So for this now, I'm just going to have some slimmer leg to this guy and kind of make it a bit longer than it is right now. Then this guy has more or less like a slimmer waist to him. So let me just see if I can do an illustration, some highlights, kind of draw some highlights on him to kind of illustrate some of the angles or regions I'm looking at to kind of modify in my object to kind of have a similar likeness for him. So let me just see, I can take a screenshot of this. Okay, something like this. Let me just push this aside. Yeah, something like this should be fine. Okay. So we are looking at having, let's see if I can just draw an angle to him like so. So we have a slimmer waist to him. So we should more or less have like a slimmer waist to him, and the legs shouldn't be not too large, something slim like so. Then the neck region, you can see how elongated the neck is, so you need to kind of create that elongated neck also to him. So this is more or less like the general body language I'm trying to recreate for this piece. So this is more or less like the design language I'm going to be using, or the shape, more or less like a simplified shape for this I'm going to be using, keeping in mind to kind of recreate this lightness of this particular character based on the entire body. So once you're able to kind of simplify the model into simple shapes like so, it gives you a better idea as to how to kind of modify the shape of the entire character, and then keeping that in mind gives you a clearer vision as to what to do, and a baseline that you can fall back to and kind of correct things in a more general form, so you can actually understand the simplified forms of this. Even though it's looking a bit complex, as long as you can actually simplify it, it gives you a roadmap as to how to start and where you're headed, and how to actually complete it. So keeping that in, okay, maybe we should just do the same thing for the face also. Let's just simplify the face also, so you guys get a better idea for this also. So I'm just going to zoom into the face like so. Though this feels slightly angled, but no matter, we're still going to simplify this as best as we can. So let me just push it to the side. Let's minimize this, push this to the side like so. Okay. So if we were to kind of to simplify this guy, we're only working with just one view, so but that's completely fine. If we can actually simplify this in a way that we can actually understand this, to give us a clearer idea as to what to do and how to go about it. So if I want to kind of simplify this shape, and I notice that if I draw something out here like so, we have something that looks more or less like this on the side. So let me just pull this like so. We have this around here like so, something like this. So you can see how the shape around the jaw and to the lips is more or less like a box, but kind of having some kind of soft rounded edges to it around the jaw region. Then for the skull, we are having something a bit more like so. My drawing is not very accurate though, but I'm sure you get the idea. So I'm not going to try as much as possible to kind of simplify it into something like this. Now compared to our reference or our base mesh, you can see how the jaw here feels a bit more sharp compared to this. So now simplifying this, let me just put this, let's see if we can put this side by side. Let me just push this to the side like so. Get this around here. So you can actually see the major difference, because after drawing this out, you can actually now see the major difference in there. Okay, you can see how this part of the lower part of the face, from the lips all the way to the jaw, around here also, to the chin rather, all the way to the jaw also. So you can see how box-like it looks. Whereas in this our stylized base mesh is looking more of a triangle, a sharp triangle to it, though with a bit more roundedness around here. So, and with in here also we can see how this part of the cheekbone all the way to a closer part of the jawline is a bit flattened out, but in here is a bit more rounded, kind of sticking out a bit more. So we need to push that in. Okay, same also, you can see how around this part just beneath the eye, you can see how deep this part is. Is a bit elongated, but in here it's kind of smaller. The distance in between the eyelid and that part on top of the cheekbone is a bit smaller. So in here is a bit elongated, so we need to kind of fix that also. Then notice that in here, this particular part, this region around here, let's see if we can mark that out. This region around here needs to be pushed in a bit more, just like the way this is pushed in a bit more around here. It's not completely obvious in here, but after working on various characters, you kind of get the idea, even though you're working with just one image in just one single view. Okay, so now just to get that, I'm sure you guys understand the idea behind that now. So let's now begin to work on this. Let me just push this to the side, like so. Okay. Now for the waist, looking at this now, I think the best way to go about this is kind of, because this guy has a bit of a shorter torso to him rather, not the waist, the torso. The torso for this guy is a bit shorter. He has a shorter torso to him, but whereas for this particular base mesh, this guy has a more longer torso to him. So we need to fix that. Okay, so but before I do that, let me just make sure we have layers for this, so we can actually move back and forth between this. So let's just subdivide this. No, before we subdivide this, something very, very, very important. So the camera angle, let's make sure perspective is turned on, so it's not appear on the keyboard. Then we go to, should be on document, I believe. Yeah, it's actually on draw. On the draw menu. So let's use an 85mm lens for this. Crop value should be around, let's leave this around 5. Crop factor of around 5. So focal length around 85 should work just fine for this. So this should be fine. Okay. So now I'm just doing a quick save again for this. Okay. So now let's come in here to the base mesh itself. Then we'll subdivide this a bit more. Probably get something around, okay, 3 million polygons seems fine. Don't think, I highly doubt if I'll need any more to this, since I won't be doing any sharp intricate detail for skin pores in here. I think anything that has to do with skin pores I can do inside of Substance Painter, I believe probably. Okay. I don't think, if we should divide this again one more time, don't know if that would be too much, but let's see. Let's divide this one more time. Okay, so we have 11 million in here. I think this should be just fine. It should be just fine. So I think I can create layers for this in here. So let me just create the first layer in here, and I'll just name these two primary forms. Okay. Right. So that's fine. This looks fine. And what I'd like to do is kind of create polygroups for this. So let's just take this down. So I'm using the Shift D to kind of take the resolution for this down a bit more. So let's create polygroups for this. This particular model doesn't really have fit for this, but that's completely fine because it's putting on some boots, so it won't be completely necessary if we kind of begin to do work on extra detailing for the fit. So I'm going to use the maxing tool. Let's make sure symmetry is turned on for this. Use the maxing tool to kind of give this a different polygroup, like so. I think I should let's add some of this to it, something like so. Then we'll add another polygroup to this. Okay. I'd like to separate the fingers into different polygroups also. Something like so. Can't really see it. The color did not really change. Yeah, something like so. Something like so. Like so. I'll hide this. I think I copied more than what I needed. Okay. I think this should be just fine. Then lastly, this piece. Just to make it a bit much easier for me to kind of isolate them and work with them individually. Since we capturing some part of the fonts. Okay. I think this should be just fine. So let me just make sure display is turned on, double-sided is turned on rather. So this has been isolated now. I think it should be fine. Alright, so we push to the side. The arms will leave the way they are. And let's use the move tool now and begin to move things in place. Let's start by isolating invert this now. So shorter waists and rather shorter torso and longer legs. So we start by pushing this up, come to the front. Something like this should be fine. So this has helped us with elongating the leg a bit more. So do we need to shrink this in a bit more from the side? I think let's get this in a bit more like so. So I'm just basically gently tapping this in. So gently tapping this in. So keeping in mind the general shape and proportion of this, so I don't go overboard. Then always zoom in out, kind of check this from a distance to be sure if everything's working correctly. You can also use the smooth brush if you want. Kind of round things up and push things in a bit more. I think something like this should be fine. Okay. Let's see for the legs again. I think this feels just about right. Okay. Yeah, it should be fine. Okay. Now for the neck, for the head rather. Yeah, more or less the same. But most likely the neck, so we're going to move the head up a bit higher. So blow out these marks on the edge. Blow this out even more. Invert the selection, go to the gizmo, Alt, click on this location icon, center this. Let me go out of symmetry mode and center this again, but click on this. Let's get this neck elongated like so. Slightly a bit more like so. I think this should be fine, I guess. Maybe a bit more like so. Okay. The eyes need to move in place. Making sure symmetry is turned off. Let's just put this back in place like so. Right. Then back to the base mesh. Invert the selection. Still on the move tool, let's just shrink this neck in. Oh no, it's supposed to be doing this. The symmetry turned on. Symmetry ought to be turned on this. This particular bullet, we need to kind of move this part up this should be now keeping in mind that if you kind of push this up too much, kind of spoil the topology. So even while you're kind of pushing things up, you need to be very mindful of the topology in there, because you don't have as much stretching as this, because that's going to affect your UVs. So let me undo that instead. I'll just smooth things out and I'll just create a new one. So I don't want to ruin this. So making sure symmetry is turned on for this, so you can do things symmetrically in here. You just be as gentle as you can be in here. Now, as much as you want to kind of adjust this, you want to make sure the anatomical forms of this are actually accurate also. So I'm also keeping that in mind while adjusting this to look more or less like this stylized character in here. Maybe I pushed that way too much. So I need to adjust this side and push this in a bit more. Okay. Push this in a bit, smooth this out. Let's get this in like so. I think I wouldn't want to go overboard on this and then ruin the entire thing, so let's push this out a bit more. So something like this should work just fine. Though it's going to compensate for the general proportions of the head, kind of make it match, but not now. I'm still working generally on the body, so let's see. The waist looks small enough. Don't think we need to kind of go overboard in there. I think the waist should work just fine for this. One part that we need to adjust very much is the arm. You can see how tube-like this arm is looking. So if I should, let me just see if I can draw out. Let's make an illustration around this again to give you guys a better idea. Okay. Let me just isolate. No, let me do this again. Something like so. Let me push it to the side. So because let me draw this out again. So I think I should use a different color. Let's use red instead. So if we should kind of analyze this, you can't really see the inner part of the upper arm. So, but we're having something more or less like so. You can see how this particular one extends out and kind of shrinks in around. Let's do this again. You see how this can see how this shrinks in like so. Let me do this again. I'm not redrawing that properly. You can see it is around here, more or less like a tube. A tube that's kind of tapered at the bottom part. You can see how broad. the entire proportion of the arm is, we do this again. You see how broad the entire proportion of the arm is. Okay, so but in our reference image, or in our base match rather, is different because they're trying to maintain the proportion. They're not kind of keeping this. It's not looking like a caricature base match that has exaggerated proportions. So now this the reference we're actually using has exaggerated proportions. So we need to kind of make sure we're kind of following it properly. It's kind of capture all the details we can from this. Okay, so now if I should, let me just work on the arm a bit more. So keeping that in mind, now the actual angle you're supposed to be doing this on is not just from this angle like so, because this is kind of deceive you, kind of give you, to really give you a clear idea as to doing this properly. So the best angle to kind of do this is somewhere around here. So okay, so a better way to kind of adjust this to do this from this angle. Now if you look at this properly, you notice that we already have more or less like that shape in here. You can see how this particular part looks a bit broader and this lower part looks a bit tapered down. So we're just going to follow the landmark we already have in here to kind of imitate this reference image here. So I'm just going to take this out, get this at an angle like so, then adjust the proportions of this a bit more. I think doing this from this side, yeah, something more or less like so. Push this out a bit more like so. I think this should be more or less fine. Let me just bring this out like so. Smooth this in a bit more. Okay, so we have this proportion for this like so. So let's see if we can. Yes, another thing to do is to elongate the shoulders a bit more. So you want to actually be very careful with this so you don't spoil the general anatomy of this. So you're making sure you're doing this from the proper camera angle and from the right spot also. So for this now, let me just do this from the top instead. So I'll just push this out like so. Okay, something like this, maybe slightly higher. Then we need to kind of compensate for it around this region because it looks a bit off on this region. So let's kind of compensate for it on this region by raising this up, pushing this out. So we're doing this gently so we can kind of keep the general proportions of the arm in place. No, not general proportion, actually the anatomical structure of this. Keeping that in mind just to make sure we're not completely breaking it. Okay, I think this should be fine. I think this makes the shoulder a bit broader. Right, something like this should be fine. The arm needs to kind of make bigger than it is right now. Also, I'm still trying to figure out how long this hand should be. So let's see. I think not so sure how long this should be though. But let's just do something like this all the way here. Do something all the way, no, all the way to the center, like so. Around here should be fine. Mark this out. Invert the marks. Let's see. Let's kind of push this down small. a bit more like so. Okay, maybe something like this should be fine. Now max out this region like so. Blur the max, invert the selection. Kind of center this out like so. Then just use this, kind of push this down a bit more like so. But you want to be very careful so you kind of maintain that angle to it. Kind of angle to it. You don't want to have something like so. This will be extremely weird. You make sure to have something like so. Just kind of tell yourself that there's an invisible line. It's kind of angled down like so, that you want to kind of maintain even when adjusting it from this pivot in here. So keeping that in mind, so I think this should be long enough. So if I should have this arm straightened out, you should be having the arm a bit roughly ending around somewhere like so. If you should have this arm straightened out, this arm should be ending somewhere around here like so. And that should be fine. Yeah, that would be just fine. So another thing we need to do is just to make this proportion of the arm the arm itself a bit bigger. So there are one or two ways we can do this. You can actually select this and use the inflate brush, kind of inflate this out. That would work just fine. I think I'll do just that. So let's just mark this out around here. Let's check this from another angle like so. I'll blow out the marks, invert the marks. Okay. I'm not too sure if I actually mark this out correctly though. Let me mark this out again. Okay. So blur out the marks, invert the selection, blur the marks again. So I'll go to deformation. So on the inflates, I'll just inflate this out a bit more. No, this is just way too much. It's a bit much. No. I think something like this looks better, I believe. I think this size looks better. And the only thing we need to do is just to do some manual pushing and pulling just to get this to look right. So let me just reduce this down a bit more and just start pushing this out like so. Okay. Maybe not too much. Let me just smooth this down a bit. I think it should be just fine. Okay. If we need to extend this out again, we can always do that. But I think for now this looks and actually feels just about right for this. Okay. This, for the most part, I've nailed the major proportions of this model. If there's anything we need to still adjust in here, we can always go back and then fix it. The waist, I'm not too sure. I don't get this too slim though. I think it should be just fine. Right. I think this we can leave with. So now we can actually start blocking, doing some more intricate and anatomical blockout for this. So let's look for a reference we can use to kind of block this in. Use this. Can use this piece, but this guy is just too muscular. So this guy is just too muscular. You want something a bit more simplified. This is just way too simplified. Let's look for something better to use. I think I will need to go and get more references for stylized body anatomy that we can actually use. But this doesn't seem to be okay. Yeah, let's just use this instead. Let's just use this instead. Okay, so I think I might need to go one subdivision level higher for this. Okay, the brush seems to have crashed. So let's just let's just use the recovery file to get this back in. Recovery Z2. I think this should be it. So let's just do edits. Okay, let me just get my UI back in. Okay, I think everything should be back in now. Let's check the camera angle resolve. Resolve the way to 5. Turn on perspective. Then save this again on top the original file. Okay. Okay, I think we're all good now. So carrying on. Let's just go one subdivision level higher. My goodness, this just keeps crashing anytime I go one subdivision level higher. Yeah, I post it. The mom is calling you outside. Oh, no. So it just keeps crashing. So I'm just going to delete the highest subdivision level for this. Let me just start by breaking everything down. Let me just do bake all, then delete. I'll delete the highest subdivision level. Then I'll subdivide this again. I think 2 million should be just fine. 2 million polygons should be just fine for this. Then I'll create a new layer again for this. The very disadvantage to this is that I've lost my primary forms layer. It's a bit all. So it would have been better if I had kept that, but unfortunately it keeps crashing. So let's just see if this will actually work. So let me take this down to subdivision level 1, then go to subdivision level 2. So it's going up now without so much of an issue. So let me just save this out again. Save this in here. Then let's just hope there's no issue again. Let me go up on that subdivision, then let me come down, move up again. Okay, we're fine now. This is working just fine. Okay, so let's just work on the torso for now. Let's just work on the torso for this. Okay, so let me just change this stream dynamic to them standard brush. Then I'll need to rename this to primary forms again. Okay, so if I use the highest subdivision level now, I think that should take the name. Yes, I'm taking the name now. So let's go down. So in here now I can start blocking things out. So with the standard brush, take down the size of the brush. Let's start blocking some. I don't think I really like this particular model, this particular reference we're using for the block outs. I would like to use something a bit more interesting. But let's just start by using this and just block things in. At least just kind of block things in first. So let's start with the rib cage. No, this is just way too intense. Let's take this down. So let's start by blocking out the shape of the rib cage. And so then the center parts in here, get this a bit more angled, like so. Okay, we just get this in here. This we need to kind of push back inwards, like so. Then just block out something like so in here. Smooth this down. No, let me just leave it the way it is for now. Oh, the smooth percentage intensity rather, let's take that down. Okay, so let's go to the arm and just make sure you kind of capture this shape in here all the way to the back, like so. Let's capture the center part of this, like so. This particular one does not need to be too aggressive though. Let's just add something in there regardless. Okay. insert this in here all the way to the back, something more or less like so. Holding Alt and kind of let's create something for the nail. This fits. Let's just go to the back. Kind of create an indentation in here like so. I'm just basically using the anatomy skill I have to kind of block some of this in. But if you should look at this with this reference in here, I think this should give us a good idea as to kind of show you guys what I'm actually doing. So this is not completely accurate though, but it's close enough. So let's just use this as a guide to kind of block things in. Do I have okay? Just get this around here like so. So holding Alt, I'll just bring this out like so. No, this is way too much. Something like this. Push this in, push this in. Let's get this out. I'm not really going for doing something very complicated in here though. You just need to kind of have a general block out of this in there. Okay. Like I said, this guy will be having clothes on top of him, so we really don't have to go extreme and then do tight muscular block out for him. But we just need to kind of have something in there that kind of passes the message that at least we kind of worked in there a bit. And that's why we're kind of doing this in the lower subdivision level. So once we add more subdivisions to this, we should kind of see most of this block out I just did now coming out. Okay. Doesn't need to be extremely aggressive. We just need to have something in there that kind of passes the message that okay, there's some level of muscular structure in here for this guy. Okay. Now let's continue with the front. Check this one. Front. I'm holding Alt just to stick something out here. And kind of make this stick in a bit more. Okay. These are just light blockouts on this. I'm not trying to do anything extremely complicated in here. So we're trying as much as possible to kind of make sure I'm keeping this a bit simplified since this is a stylized character. So if we should add a subdivision level to this, we should kind of see most of these details sticking out a bit. Yes. Okay. Okay. Holding Alt. Let's extend out the elbow. Kind of create a sharp line for this elbow. Something like so. That should be fine. Smooth this out a bit. Let's get something in here. Using the clay brush, let's block something around here. Smooth that in a bit more, like so. But keeping in mind keeping this in mind, so we don't kind of stray away from this way too much. So let's just try to get some good blockouts for this. This at the very least, let's get some good blockout for this. Okay, I think this should be fine to start with. So let's just go to area subdivision level for this. You can see how based on our block, I can see how small this is kind of picking out now a bit more. Not very obvious, but still there, at least for a base block out for this. Let me just do a quick save for this. Okay. Some of these are going to be covered up, so you might not need to go overboard and make sure every single detail is showing. So on this level now, I'm just going to continue blocking things in. So I'm not really going extremely detailed on this, just creating new lines and then accentuating some of the lines we already have in there. Okay. No more or less just looking for those existing lines we have recreated and trying to accentuate them a bit more. So that they are more or less slightly more visible to see. Okay. Some of these things to have sharp edge. So I'm just holding Alt now, start creating some sharp edge around this. Because it needs to have sharp edge, kind of give that illusion of it being stylized. So I'm more or less creating sharp edge and soft edge in between. Okay. Just sorting this out. I don't want it to be too sharp. I'm mostly just focusing on the body right now. Later we would work on the other parts. So making this edge a bit sharp. It's a bit sharp also. Make something sharp here. Something sharp here also. But it shouldn't be too sharp though. We just want to kind of create an illusion of it being sharp, but at least it's still being soft also. Okay. Let's do the same for the back. Just add some sharp edge around here. Okay. Let's go now for the lower part of the legs. This particular one we need more resolution to kind of sell this properly. So I need a bit more resolution. Should be something more or less like so. Sorting this out like this. Now use the clay build-up brush and kind of create a dimple around here. Smooth that out. Just give it a slightly more realistic feeling to it. Just create a demarcation in here for where like the herb is supposed to be. Just a raw block though. Just a raw block though. This guy is not supposed to entirely have herbs, but just to have something in there regardless. Now just sorting this out. Okay. The head is still untouched because I like to deal with that later on. Okay, I think it should be fine for now. I think in next lesson we'll just keep. Next lesson I should have found some better reference that we can actually use to kind of make this feel more interesting based on the board. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Yeah, let me just do one more thing. I think there's something here we need to kind of let's sharpen this out a bit more. Sharpen this muzzle out a bit more. Maybe too much. Just lighten it out.